joined now by United States Senator Dan Sullivan. Good morning, Senator Sullivan. How goes things in Alaska with the Sullivan family and your state?
Good morning, Hugh. Alaskans are tough. We're resilient people, but we're fighting it like everybody else. As I keep saying to my constituents, everybody has a role to play. What we say in the Marine Corps, one team, one fight. That's what we're doing in Alaska. But, like the rest of the country, proud of our citizens. 2,500 Alaskans across state already committed to sewing masks. But we got a long haul to go, but we'll get through it stronger and tougher and more resilient.
So I want to ask the questions I asked of Leader McConnell first. There's a debate about what ifs. Do you believe, Senator Sullivan, that impeachment impacted our readiness to deal with COVID?
Yes. I mean, look, impeachment, if you look at the month of January, the entire federal government, the House, the Senate, and the executive branch were focused on impeachment. There's no doubt about it. I mean, Hugh, I think we're going to look back in this period and kind of say, it all seems so ridiculous what was going on then. And, I was in discussions on the margins during impeachment, literally when we were taking breaks, starting to talk about this. You mentioned Senator Cotton, raising the alarm. He and I had a number of conversations about it. But the fact is it was all impeachment all the time in January. And there's no doubt that, in my mind, that it took our eye off the ball on this big issue. Like I said, history will look back and say, wow, that was really ridiculous now that we have the threat of hundreds of thousands of Americans dying.
Now, I also want to get to Phase 4 and what the Senate has done. I think it was Senator McConnell's finest hour to shepherd through Phase 3. But before we go to Phase 4, I know the president is considering the moral equivalent of war bonds, pandemic bonds, so that the average American citizen, like in World War II and I, can contribute to public health infrastructure. What do you think of that?
I like it, and I've talked to some of my colleagues already. And we need to implement Phase 3, as you mentioned. But I do think that we need to start thinking hard about Phase 4. I think it would be a mistake to give the Speaker the pen. One of the things that you mentioned about Leader McConnell, the reason Phase 3, which certainly wasn't perfect, came out well is that it started in the Senate. We need to be ready to start Phase 4 in the Senate, and I think we can do that, and I think it's a mistake to give her the pen.
So how would they use a task force system in the Senate, the leader put it together. You're on armed services, you're on commerce and science. In Phase 3, there was not any expenditure on the strategic weaponry that stands up against the originator of this virus, the Communist Chinese Party. The CCP is responsible for this because they shut down communication. In Phase 4, ought we to fund our strategic deterrent in a significant way?
Yes, and let me just give you a couple ideas that I think that could be the basis of a bipartisan bill. I've already talked to some senators on both sides of the aisle. For Phase 4, first we got to fix the problems in Phase 3. We know there are going to be mistakes. It was a rushed bill, important to get it out there, but there's going to be mistakes. There are going to be people who aren't going to be covered. Next is infrastructure. The president and I had a good conversation about this the other day. Out of the Environment and Public Works Committee, I sit on that committee. We passed the next 5-year highway bill 21-0. Very bipartisan already for infrastructure. That's a big infrastructure bill already. This idea of bringing key manufacturing and supply chains home, particularly from China, a lot of bipartisan support for that. Your idea, Hugh, on war bonds, virus bonds, and we're already working on the National Defense Authorization Act right now. That, to me, is a bipartisan package that for Phase 4, Phase 3 is a tourniquet for our economy. Phase 4 should help turbocharge a recovery. The elements I just mentioned there would have strong bipartisan support in the Senate, and I think we need to get on it.
Can we forward appropriate acquisition costs for, say, the entire Columbia-class submarine, the entire B-21? These are strategic systems that deter the People's Republic of China from ever going from adversary to enemy. Can we forward appropriate the monies necessary for those systems?
So if you look at where we've been just in the last couple of years, one of the areas of bipartisan support that doesn't get a lot of press is the recognition in the national defense strategies and national security strategy by the Trump administration that we need to move to great power competition with China as the pacing threat for our nation. The vast majority of all U.S. senators agree with that, and that's why the NDAA, the Defense Authorization Act, and the funding for our military after Obama cut it by 25% in his second term has returned in a strong bipartisan way. So I think there are ways to continue strong bipartisan support for rebuilding our military. Now more than ever, if you look at the last three NDAAs, they passed with like 85 senators voting for them.
Senator Dan Sullivan, good to hear you're in good health. I hope and pray the whole Sullivan family and all of Alaska weathers this. Keep talking to us about this.